So guys, like I promised in my last video, I said I was going to be doing a review of two books which I showed you in the last video. If you've not watched that video, please go and watch it. Go and see the video. You need to watch that video and let me know what you think. So I said I was going to be reviewing the other two books. So firstly, I'm going to be reviewing Stay With Me. Yeah, Stay With Me is what the first one I'm going to review. So in reviewing this book, I'm going to be talking about the author, the plot, the setting, my favorite character, the style of writing, what I like about the book and the themes of the book, and basically another thing, and my general overview about the book. The general review about the book I'm going to give you guys. That's what I'm going to be talking about. And please bear in mind that I am not a professional when it comes to reviewing book, and I don't think I've ever reviewed book or to anybody. Basically what I do is I tell a friend or anybody, read this book and we'll discuss it. And by then that it's not going to be like I'm giving any spoiler, but with this I'm going to try as much as possible not to leave any spoiler in case anybody wants to read. What sound is that? So like I said, I'm going to try as much as possible not to leave any spoiler, so in case you want to read, you don't feel like, oh, somebody has left the spoiler already, so it's no longer interesting. But for me, I don't mind spoiler, because if you tell me the spoiler, I will still want to go back to that book and know what is in the book. But without further ado, let's just go straight into this. The author of the book is Ayobami Adebayo. That is the author of the book. She's a lady. Yeah, she's a lady. She finished from Obafemi Awolowo University, and I think that tells why the setting of the book was set in Ife. That is just it. So the next thing we're going to be talking about is the plot of the book, and by the plot, I'm just going to read a short what's it called of the book. It says Yejide is hoping for miracle. Yejide is hoping for a miracle for a child. It is all her husband wants, all her mother-in-law wants, and she has tried everything. The audience pilgrimage, medical consultations, dances with prophets, appeal to God. But when her in-law insists upon a new wife, it is too much for Yejide to bear. It will lead to jealousy, betrayal, and despise. Give you guys my own plot of the story, because I don't want to go with what we just read, because what I read from this, what I just read to you guys, is totally different from what I consider the book to be, like I said. So the plot of the book for me is, the story is basically about Yejide and Akin. They've been married for 4 years. Yeah, for over 4 years, and they've been childless. They've not had any kids, no pregnancy, no miscarriage or whatsoever, just been childless for over 4 years of marriage. And you know the typical African or Nigerian mentality that once you are married, they expect that within 2 years they have to start seeing kids, if possible that year still. So what they had to deal with, the back and forth, the trauma and everything. That is what this book summarizes. I will give you guys the theme later, but basically that's what I want to tell you guys about. Yes, the plot. The plot is basically about Yejide, how she had to go through, the pain she went through from, family members. Yes, that was just it. And Yejide is an orphan, no mother, no father. Yes. So the only person she considers as her mom, that she calls her mommy, is it mommy, Abi mommy, is her mother-in-law. Okay, reading the first chapter, I felt like, oh, this book was just going to be about polygamy, the African mentality of polygamy, of how a woman is childless, and the next thing you see her in-laws, her family members bring is a new wife for the husband, because that was what the first chapter says. That was what I read from the first chapter. So that was what they introduced us to. Yejide's stepmom and Akin's uncle bringing a new wife for me to Yejide to meet, and I just felt like, oh, this was going to be another secret life of Baba Segi's housewife. I was like, the secret lives of Baba Segi's wives. And mind you, when I started, before I read Yejide, I had just finished reading Secret Lives of Baba Segi's housewives, like maybe like 2 or 3 weeks before I came across Stay With Me, and I had to read it. So I was like, oh, this is another polygamy story, how the wives would go back and forth. And considering that in Secret Life of Baba Segi's wife, one of his wife was barren also. So I just felt like, oh, this was going to be another plot or singular. Let me just try to read it. That was what I thought of. But reading the book, I realized that it was kind of different. Yes. But eventually I went deeper into the book. By the time I got to chapter 3, 4, I was like, oh, this is totally different from Secret Life of Sex. It's totally different from the typical polygamy story and all that. It was basically about Yejide and Akin, how they've been married for 4 years, they've not had kids, and the pressure from society, from family members and all that. So how they had to deal with it, how they had to, like, what they had to go through, and it was really takes and also the loss of their kid, because at some point they were eventually blessed with children, but they had to do with the loss at some point. I don't want to dive into much about the details of the loss, because if I dive into it, I'm going to be talking about the spoil the book, which is like, I'm going to be giving you a spoiler, which I don't want to do. Like I said, I don't want to give spoiler in this. The book was set in a kind of like 1980s, in the 1980s, during the military regime.
So while I was editing this, I realized that the audio at this part was bad, which is why I decided to rectify this by using a voiceover, and I do hope that this rectified the old mistake. My apologies. So guys, for the setting of this book, the book was set in the year 1985 to 2008, and it was basically majorly in Osun State, particularly Ilesha, although Ilefe was mentioned. The popular Obafemi Awolowo University was mentioned, and some other parts of the country like Lagos State, Bauchi State, and Jos, they were also mentioned, but majorly it was Ilefe, the Osun State's Ilesha, that was used majorly.
So Yejide has to be my favorite character. For some reason, she was just my favorite. I could not tell. And I have other favorite characters, the likes of Akin, Rotimi, and Yabolu. Is it Yabolu or Mama Bolu? I can't remember. But Yabolu, that's also my favorite character. So I won't tell you who Rotimi is, but if you read into the book, you will understand who you get who Rotimi is. Because if I start telling the details of who Rotimi is, there will be no way I'm going to leave spoiler for you. So I will try and cut short that Rotimi is actually one of my favorite characters. I loved it. Even though I didn't get to spend more time, they didn't give us much description about that character, but I love Rotimi's character. Another character I love, just those 4 characters, like I said, Yejide, Akin, Rotimi, and Iyabolu. So for Yejide's character, because the story was just majorly about her, so the description, she was one telling us the story of her life. The story was basically focused on her. So I don't like she was telling us the story of her life. So, but the story was focused more on Yejide. So I could not help assist myself but just love the character of Yejide. And then Akin, there are a lot to tell about the character of Yejide, but I'm not going to do that. And there's a lot to tell about the character of Akin also, because if I have to start going into details of telling you guys Akin or Yejide's character and Rotimi's character, I'll be saying too much about the book, and it will leave room for me to spoil this novel for you. And I don't want to do that. I want you to read it, and if possible, we can discuss it. Yeah, you know what, book club community. But without further ado, let me just go straight to the next thing. Another thing I want to talk about is the style of writing in this book. The style of writing wasn't a kind of story where you get like, how do they put it? I've forgotten what I was taught in literature in secondary school. It was like Yejide was described. At some point, we're seeing the book from Yejide's perspective and also from Akin's perspective. Those were the 2 people we saw the book from their perspective, both. Just those 2 people, nobody else, not even Rotimi, not even Iyabolu, that I said I love their characters, but just those 2 people. We saw things from their perspective, how and what happened. But the only problem. So guys, let's talk about the themes of this book. The first theme, and I think that's the major theme in this book, is the pressure of having kids in a marriage. Like, pressure from family members, and I think that just sum up everything, but I'm going to break every other thing towards it. So the first thing, aside the major theme, the first theme I'm going to talk about is the love. Yeah, you can tell from you can actually read, when you're reading the book, you see the love, you can feel the love towards from Akin to Yejide, from Yejide to Akin, you can tell that these people love themselves. You can tell there was no two ways about it. You are see when it just felt like you're reading another romantic story, romantic novel. You could actually tell like the love was there, the love was there. Yes, I know that was the first thing for me. Then the second thing is loss. Like I said, loss. I think okay, so loss in terms of at some point they lost their key. Yeah, I don't so okay, but there was a loss of child and children and blah 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 blah. There was lost children. So and that sums it up. Like when they eventually had the kid that they've been waiting for years, and eventually had, they just imagine, and they had to lose. I don't know. Then the loss of that child at some point, it was so painful. That was that scene. And you can imagine a woman that has gone through so much, then having to lost a child. It felt so heartbreaking. I felt her pain actually. Then another theme is secrets. So secrets from Yejide to Akin, secrets from Akin to Yejide. I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to give a spoiler. But when you read the book, you understand what I mean by secrets. It's a very major part of this book. And that was where the whole book centers about. But I feel like that secret part might not have happened if the book was set in this my generation, because I feel like you have a lot of things like Google to help. So it might not have been a problem with the team. So another theme I will talk about is awareness in terms of genotype. Yeah, when they eventually had kids, their kids turned out to be SS. And you know what SS means, SS, sickle cell. So I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't want to spoil it. But that was one of the things I noticed from this book. It was an awareness which I feel like people need to be aware of this thing also. And back in the days, our forefathers, our grandparents' generation, they know nothing about genotype science. And I also thank God for science and technology. There was nothing like genotype. They just assume that any child that dies before a particular age, that child is an abiku, which we call what's it called in English? I can't remember. I remember putting it on the screen. So they just assume that child is an abiku, and I think that was the same thing that happened in this book, even though it was actually SS, but not an abiku kind of situation. You should read the book to understand more. And also the fact that there's a lot of expectation from couples. Immediately they get married, they expect that within a year or two we should be seeing kids flying around your house, we should be seeing, there was a lot of expectation from BGD and Akin. And in fact, let me just stop there because I don't want to talk about the very major part of this book, because if I talk about it, there will be no way I'm going to spill the beans. I am going to spill it. I'm going to spill the tea. So let me not say anything. I don't want to spoil this book for anybody reading. So let me just keep quiet. Let's just leave the theme like that. So the theme is just about pressure from society, pressure to have kids from the society and family members, love, loss, secrets, lack of awareness, and all that. Those are these things. I'm going to be talking about my likeness, what I like about the book, and basically I'll just end it up here, round up, and tell you what I like about the book, and generally my review about the book. So I love the plots of the book. I love the storyline of the book. I love. It's a very good story. Yes, trust me. It's a very good story. I love it. I would read it again. In fact, see, I go back to this book and I go back to read the most important part to me. I won't tell you the most important part to me, because if I have to tell you the most important part, I'll be telling you the spoiler. But the most important part to me is towards the end of the book, because I wasn't really expecting what I got towards the end of the book. I was like, okay, let's just keep it that way. So that was it. Then another thing I love is the fact that it's an African book. I can relate to places and tradition, the culture that was being used. Okay, for instance, I love books. I love it when I read a book, and while I'm reading, I'm hearing Nigeria, Lagos. They tell me Lagos traffic. You told me, you mentioned places I'm familiar with. I might not have been there before, but I love it when I've passed through. Okay, like in this book, they mention places like Obafemi Awolowo University. I've been to Obafemi Awolowo University once. So I could look, okay, I didn't finish Obafemi, but when he mentioned Obafemi, I was like, Obafemi Awolowo University, that was nice. So when he mentioned, if I could relate to the tradition, I could relate to the expectation, because I know that yes, these are things that goes on around my surroundings, around my environment. So I know that this is what a typical Nigerian people will do. So I wasn't surprised. It didn't come out, but I'm not saying I'm not willing to learn from other traditions. I am open to learn other traditions and all that. But I was just like, oh, this is something I'm used to, and it felt so good reading them again. That oh, yes, you are right. You are correct. It is a norm. This is what would typically happen in Nigeria setting. So that was one of the things I love. So guys, I think I want to end this video here because I think I'm already going to find. I still have to review it's the 7 husbands of Evelyn Ugo. Yes, so let's just end this video here, and I'll see you guys in my next video. If you watch this video to this end and you haven't subscribed, please kindly subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, subscribe to my channel, share my video, like the video. See, if I like it, YouTube is going to recommend my video. If you don't want me to click hit 100,000 subscribers, even though I myself am serious, I want to hit 100,000 subscribers. Please guys, subscribe, watch my videos, share my videos, leave a comment, engage me, let's talk. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye. Hey guys, welcome back. So like I said, I'm going to be reviewing this book, Stay With Me by Today. Sorry, I'm going to be reviewing this book by Ayobami Adebayo.